Welcome to Behind the Tools. Here's Tradify CEO and your host, Michael Steckler.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Behind the Tools. This week we have a guest in Australia, over in Queensland, Ed Ross, who is the founder of TradeMutt. Some of you will be familiar if you're Australian with TradeMutt. For other listeners, viewers across the rest of the world, TradeMutt is a workwear brand, which I'll let Ed talk to, but it's a really cool idea to support mental health in trades. And Ed also has another organisation which TradeMutt supports, which is called TAX, which is really about having some psychologists that, again, will support blue-collar workers with issues around mental health. So it's a really important topic. And actually, today, we're launching this podcast on Are You OK Day, which, if you're outside of Australia, Are You OK is a non-profit, again, focused on suicide prevention. So it's a really important topic, and one that I've been alarmed by, actually. I spoke to Slade from Mates in Construction recently, and we were talking about the kind of suicide rates in New Zealand, Australia, amongst trades, and it's really sort of shot up in the last few years and become a really big issue. So this is quite a timely conversation. So Ed, welcome to the show.
Michael, great to be here. Appreciate it.
No, great to have you on board. Do you maybe want to start with, I've read your story. I think it's a really sort of fascinating and interesting story. Do you maybe want to start with kind of where the idea of TradeMutt emanated from, kind of why you created the brand and where you're at?
Yeah. So I suppose Dan and I, a co-founder of Best Mate, both chippies by trade, met on a building site here in Brisbane, end of 2014. Spent many long days in the heat and the humidity, dreaming of things to be doing better than this. No one likes, put a waterproofing on the back of a block wall in 45-degree heat and about 80% humidity. So we thought, gee, there must be something better to life than this, and thinking of different business ideas. One of those ideas was workwear, and basically how just nothing had been done in that space. It was very plain boring, and it had been the same for about 50 years. So we started looking into that, and then late 2015, Dan lost a close mate to suicide. That was sort of our eye-opening experience to sort of that conversation and how nothing sort of really related to us. And then we learned what social enterprise was and profit for purpose, and we basically rolled the two ideas together and just launched TradeMutt from there.
Fantastic. And the for those that haven't seen, I sort of strongly urge you, if you're outside of Australia, you can sort of go to TradeMutt and have a look at some of the workwear. So the designs are kind of, I guess it's a sort of collaboration between the original kind of high vis kind of workwear combined with kind of an Hawaiian shirt. Is probably the best way. Probably not a fair way. I might not be doing you justice, but there's some really cool designs on there. So it is a really good hybrid mix of those two things. So quite different to most of the stuff you'll see out there. Do you have just a quick question on that? Do you have many sales outside of Australia for TradeMutt?
Yeah, we do. We have a few to New Zealand. We haven't actually targeted anywhere outside of Australia yet, literally due to our growth so far. It all sort of happened during COVID, and we don't really want to be experimenting in new areas when the logistics supply chain is just so so we don't want that bad customer service to be happening when it's completely out of our control, right? Which is annoying, because like our customer service is A1, right? We've got awesome reviews, but the only poor reviews we ever get is normally due to shipping. So for us to launch into other areas at the moment, it wouldn't do the reputation a great deal of good just due to the expectations around delivery.
Yeah, delivery is definitely that's something. I mean, you've seen it in the trades with suppliers, but actually, I think anything that's shipping from outside of the kind of country is definitely getting slowed down by postal services and everything else. And you're in Queensland, which has been more untouched, I guess, from COVID than other parts of Australia. Certainly, New South Wales or Victoria.
Been very fortunate.
Yeah. So that's been good. And then sort of from a COVID perspective, you talked about it. You sort of launched a business then. What was was that just timing wise? That's when you're having to get the idea together, start producing the products, and start to really push it?
Well, TradeMutt launched.
It was like 4 years ago.
2018. But last year, up until 2 years ago, it was just Dan and I. Now we've got a team of 15. It's just sort of gone ballistic through the COVID time, and again in this year. So it's sort of just been trying to keep up with the growth, right, and making sure that everything can keep self-perpetuating.
Yeah, you grew the team a lot. What drove that? What was the sudden uptick in demand during COVID? Do you think it's just more people online at home browsing, or or was there something you did?
Yeah, no, it was that, plus us just really investing into like strategic paid media, right, and getting in front of the right people and explaining our message and letting people know what we're doing. I think once people hear the story and what we're up to and why we're doing it, yeah, it's sort of like, why wouldn't you buy workwear from us? You know,
Right.
which is pretty cool. So like we get that a lot, and that's why we're sort of like branching out into a broader range of workwear sort of next year, so we can pick people up not just on the Friday loud shirts, but also that Monday to Thursday stuff, so we can really help the market get quality workwear that makes a social impact, day in, day out.
And who's the main target market? Is it predominantly, is there a particular sort of category of construction or tradies that are buying the product, or is it right across the board?
Yeah, so we've got it's funny, we've got an even split of men and women that buy our product, but it's not an even split of male and female cuts. So there's a lot of women that buy this for their blokes, which is really cool. And then also, tradies just buying for themselves, just as something like, I mean, it's a really cool community that we've been able to grow here, where people, someone wears one to work and everyone's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, let's all wear this on Friday, and everyone gets on board. And then you've just got this really cool cultural change that happens, and people start, having that vulnerable chat about stuff that's gone on, and the stories are shared. And then obviously, people come through to TX through that user journey. That's a professional. Cool.
Yeah, so the TX, for those that don't know, I mean, do you want to maybe give the kind of elevator pitch around what that is and what you're trying to achieve there, how that works?
Yeah, so TX is our free text and call service direct to mental health professionals Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So we launched that, smack bang in COVID, June 8th last year. Launched that service, and we've provided must be nearly over 2,600 hours of contact now, which is, amazing.
Oh, wow.
So, well over $500,000 worth of free private sector mental health care. And it was launched literally due to the conversations we've been having, and sort of the disillusion around the gap between peer-to-peer support, which TradeMutt creates, and then right down to the end where there's like Lifeline and crisis support, sort of like that big grey area in the middle where people didn't know where to go. And people that sort of did know where to go, which was to go and see a psychologist. It's an arduous task, right? You got to take time off work, you got to get on a mental health plan, you got to find a psychologist, one you gel with, go and see them, keep attending. So there's lots of little areas where people can drop off the user journey. So we thought, well, why don't we just remove all those barriers, the physical and financial barriers that have previously existed, and just give people access instantaneously. So that's what we did. We just hired a couple of provisional psychologists and counsellors and just said, here's a phone line, and when people call, help them. So it's pretty cool.
It's great. It's a really great initiative. And who's generally calling? I mean, if you could typify the type of person that's generally calling you, at what point in their journey are they calling?
Yeah, very, very broad range of data. Like, there's people, elderly people, right down to, we've had, young school children ring up that have been bullied, right? So we've had like a really broad cross section of community reach out, a lot of regional and remote, a lot of FIFO, a lot of middle-aged people that are going through divorce or domestic violence. Like a really broad range of people, and then young people that are just really struggling and struggling with, a magnitude of things: loss of work, relationships, finances, drug and alcohol abuse, and then, past traumas that they've got to deal with as well. So like a really broad range. But we're just about to get a really big tech implementation, which is going to track all of our social impact measurements. So people will be able to see, look, this is where TX is making all of its change with these groups of people.
And how are these people finding you? How do most of them hear about TX? Where do they get that information from?
Yeah, so it's through TradeMutt mainly at the moment. And then so TradeMutt does all the marketing for TX, which is really cool. And then obviously, stuff like this where I'm out telling our story. And then also new TX Alliance members that are coming on board, which are basically people that subscribe to the TX support service, so they help fund it. So we can provide further clinical hours, and then those Alliance members are out there marketing this service on our behalf, because a charitable organisation, I mean, there's enough money out there in the charity space that's been wasted on marketing and admin and overheads. We're just like, look, let's put all of our money into clinical staff. So like, we're really proud to say that, 70 cents on the dollar goes into clinical outcomes, which is really cool, So yeah, we're driven by the social change and that impact, and allowing the people who support us to push our message for us, so we don't have to pay for it, basically.
And was the I guess losing someone to suicide and having that close to home, was that really the sort of thing that prompted you to think about this? Was that the thing that made you realise this was a big thing, we should do more around it?
Yeah, because when Dan's mate took his life, who I never met, but it was sort of like I was Dan's support network at work, and Dan was obviously struggling through that period. Just sort of us navigating that, just being like, seems really weird how like we haven't been educated about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Where do we go? And nothing out there really resonated with us, and it was willing us on to actually reach out. So it was sort of like, how do we create an environment where people are willing to reach out? And that's what we've sort of done, right? Like created the workwear, which is fun and inviting, and the mental health conversation we've sort of turned on its head, where it's like, it's not dark and gloomy. It's like, we've all got it, so let's like deal with it. And the more we're working on a preventative measure, the more people we're going to save getting in that crisis in. So it's sort of like, let's start talking about this stuff more often. From there, if someone does want to speak to a professional, then you can. So it's just getting people, earlier rather than later. It's sort of like, rather than telling someone to quit smoking after 20 years, it's like after the first couple of puffs, let's give it away, mate, and let's try something a little bit healthier.
Yeah, and was the idea behind the brand itself, TradeMutt, the look and the feel is quite fun. Was that an intentional thing to sort of spark that conversation and make it more lighthearted is the wrong phrase, but a lighter way to approach it?
No, we use lighthearted all the time. Yeah, 100%. Like we're just trying to cut, right? And it's just sort of like, let's create something that people are willing to buy into, and a message that people can understand and actually enjoy being a part of. Because it's like, for too long, it's been too dark and gloomy, and people aren't resonating with that, because like, majority of the people you hear that take their life, people are always saying he was the life of the party. He was always, the greatest person to have around. They're never the guy that's sitting in the room with darkly lit, with the windows down and the lights off. That's just not what happens. There are people out there that are in that place, and we're obviously there to help them as well. But it's sort of like, we're a larger community of people that are struggling at times and not opening up about it. We need to be able to create that line of communication and a reason for people to have that conversation, right? So that's basically why we've created this.
Yeah, fantastic. And then, what do you think it is in trades and construction? What do you think has been the driver of the sort of the high suicide rates we've seen? What do you think the main sort of driver of that is? And I guess the second part of the question would be, are you seeing improvements?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the suicide rates, it's funny. Like we just really never look at statistics, right? Because we know there's an issue, and it's sort of like, and we never talk about the stats, because people know that it's happening, right? It's an issue. But it's sort of like, for us, what we've noticed is that it's normally finances and relationships for both that they're struggling with. And for us to be able to have TX there is just like an entry level, easy, I can access it and start talking about that, is a lot better than being like, let's go get on the beers, have that really misogynistic thing on the workplace, and make that like really poor state of mind, poor culture. Sort of like, we're trying to turn all that on its head, right? And I think also like the trades industry has really put itself in a position where people are really struggling due to hard work conditions, a real macho sort of identity. People think that the rougher and harder and stronger, the tougher you are, the better bloke you are. But it's so far from the truth. And I think we're slowly starting to see those changes, right? Which is really cool. And it takes time for this stuff. I think we are definitely seeing changes and seeing leaders in this space and business leaders putting their hand up and wanting to make change in this space, which is really cool.
Yeah, you touched on an important point there. I heard this from other people I've spoken to, which is that there is this sort of cultural, macho culture thing which prevents people from talking. Are there sort of recommendations that you give when you speak to people in trades businesses about how they can change that or make things more open so that people feel they could ask for help if they need it?
Yeah. The thing we talk about is just vulnerability, right? As soon as someone can show some vulnerability, the easier it is for everyone around them. Because I think that's what the main thing that everyone's waiting for, right? And that's like the other really weird thing that these shirts have been able to do. Like, we had a guy on from Lendlease the other day on our podcast, and the first day he wore his shirt to work, he picked a guy up for a meeting, and they never made the meeting. They just sat in their car, and this guy cried for 45 minutes to an hour, just spilling out all his stuff because he just said, "Oh, what's his shirt about?" And then he told him what it was. It was a conversation started about mental health, and off it went, right? People just need an opportunity to be able to talk about this stuff. And once they do, and once you let people know that's gone on and that's how you feel, other people then feel empowered to tell their own story, right? And we see it all the time. We hear these stories all the time. It's just people being able to show vulnerability themselves, and especially those leaders out there, those business owners, they need to be able to talk to their staff and say, like, myself as a business owner, we do it all the time. Like Dan and I talk about how we're struggling, things that we're working on. You know what I mean? Like I'm seeing a guy at the moment just because I don't want to burn out leading into the end of the year. It's like collectively working on ourselves to ensure that we're, being the best version, right?
Yeah, and the shirt approach is really smart. I mean, so that you're in sort of initially when someone buys a shirt, they're obviously buying into what this is about, right? And I guess that's in the packaging and everything else. They're aware of what this means, which I think is a really powerful kind of tool to get them, on sites or wherever they are to discuss and open up. And because they are so vibrant, someone's bound to say, "Where did you get that?" and "What's that about?"
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's
And that's the really cool thing about it, right?
Yeah, it's really cool. And has it been easy to scale up the sort of psychologist side of things, hire people and counselors? Is that quite hard?
No, the hardest thing for us at the moment is finding psychologists or counselors or mental health professionals, right, to man our phones. That's the hardest thing. There's such a shortage of them in this country at the moment, and we're looking at ways around that, how we can have other people on that haven't got the same qualifications but are still a need to talk to, right, to lean on. So that has been the hardest part. It's the funding component. I mean, there's so many people that want to jump on board, but we're so driven by creating those social outcomes. We're not taking money at the moment. We've got people waiting because we want to be able to make sure that we can, when we take money on, we can hire another person and create more social change. Like a lot of money sitting in a bank account isn't going to save people's lives. Like we need to hire people, and we need to be able to obviously fund them through corporate donations and that TX Alliance membership base. But we need staff first and foremost to be able to crank this machine up. That's the most scarce resource for us as a non-for-profit for sure.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Are you trying to hire those people across Australia, or are you trying to centralize that in terms of where they sit?
So we're telehealth, so we can hire people from anywhere in the country.
Anywhere,
so we're just really starting to crank up sort of some paid media around trying to find some more leads for people that want to work for us, because we've got 4 clinicians at the moment. We envisage that to be 25 clinicians in 12 months. So we need to find some people.
Yeah, that's a big number. And in terms of the TradeMutt brand itself, what's the ambition there in terms of how many people you think could be wearing TradeMutt gear? And if we take Australia as a sort of start point.
Yeah, so for TradeMutt, I suppose we're really branching out now and getting more strategic partnerships with larger corporates that want to come on board. And like I was sort of saying earlier, really having an end-to-end solution for their workwear and procurement system, right? So we want to be able to obviously continue to change the culture around the mental health conversation through our conversation starting work shirts, but also be able to provide them the Monday to Thursday products as well, so we can further fund our non-for-profit and our social impact, because we also work with Sendable, which are our third-party logistics company. So everyone that warehouses, pick packs, and dispatches our product has got a physical or mental disability. So we've been able to provide, I haven't got the latest stats, but it must be nearly 15,000 hours of disability employment since we launched with those guys, which is really cool. So it's all those little touch points of social change we're able to create through this business, which is amazing.
And do you have any, I think there's a lot of listeners who are sort of small business, constructional trade companies in Australia or, US, UK, all over the world, and obviously New Zealand as well. Any advice you would give them that sort of wrestling with this? I'm always intrigued as to, one thing they could do differently tomorrow. Obviously, apart from buy a TradeMutt shirt, is there other stuff that you tend to see happen that's effective in these types of workplaces?
Yeah, I think it's just putting some time into your staff, right? Having those one-on-one chats, seeing what's going on. I think for too long, the trade construction industry, people forget, bosses forget about their people. They just thrash them and work really hard and expect everything from them. It's sort of like those times have changed, those days of just cracking the whip and being like, hurry up. And those days are over, right? You really need to invest in your people and in your staff and ensure that they're bought into what you're doing. as soon as it just becomes about financial gain, people just switch off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's these businesses out there, trying to figure out what they're really striving to be the best at. You know what I mean? Like it could be a tiling business, and they just want to be known as like the #1 preferred tiler in their area, and like that's the mission they're buying into. And we all want to be working with the customers really well. Like everyone buying into that little culture and community, and ensuring that you're having those chats with your staff, seeing how they're going, outside of work, giving them those couple of days off every now and then, just to be able to allow them to reset. And really looking out for them, I think, is a key to ensuring their longevity as well.
Well, I think it's, you hit on a good point. Even I mean, alone for the mental health reasons, I think it pays dividends. But the other reason is most trades and construction companies are really struggling to hire and keep people. So if nothing else, this is a great tactic just to make sure you retain good staff and they want to stick around, because there's this healthy culture, which there isn't in every company. I mean, that's a non-trades and construction. That's just a thing in general. But I think I definitely when I hear people talking about it's really hard to find a good Sparky or whatever it is, like finding that person, making sure they're a cultural fit, and then retaining them, I think is, saves you the cost of having to go back around the houses and find another one or turn down jobs and all those things. So yeah,
absolutely. It's a no-brainer. I think too many trade businesses take that for granted, right? And haven't worked it out because they're always screaming at people, but it's sort of like the good ones aren't,
Yeah, totally. And it seems like, look, it's a really cool brand. I mean, I sort of, it's funny. I was thinking there's definitely a sort of thing you could do here with Carhartt or someone in the future. Like they haven't really gotten onto that yet with their sort of historical workwear. I'm not talking about Carhartt, the fashion brand. I'm talking more about how the company started. Which is funny when you go to the US, how people still a popular thing that some people wear. What are the longer term plans? COVID aside, hopefully as things progressively start to open up, and I'm ever the optimist that they will. Is the plan to think about sort of branching out more globally with this? It feels like there's a good opportunity there for this type of product.
Yeah, so New Zealand's a no-brainer, right? Once we get stuff in Australia really humming along, which is pretty much there, right? The only other strain of a part of our business that we need to start investing in is sort of like that larger B2B procurement side, which is already happening. And once we've got that, then it's sort of like replicating that in other places. We'd really like to make a bigger play into the west of Australia and the WA market, over into New Zealand, and then if we can tie all that stuff up, I mean, who knows from there? It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And do you have much interaction with other sort of organisations? I don't necessarily mean kind of workwear organisations, but I mean more the sort of people that are trying to do things in mental health, which there are lots of, whether they're in other parts of the world. Is there a community forming around that on a global basis? Do you ever speak to other companies?
We do. We do speak to other companies, but majority of the time, there's like, because everyone's out there scratching for funding, right? Like everyone's scratching for funding.
Yeah.
It's like the non-for-profit space is so different to like the e-commerce space or normal business space, because everyone's sort of lending a hand to one another. And like we've got the same mentality for the non-profit space, but there's no one else out there sort of replicating it to us and giving us any assistance. So it's sort of like you're sort of out there on your own, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because I mean we're all in the same fight, right? And I mean, even
completely.
your lifelines beyond blues, and your headspaces. I mean, combine those guys, nearly $750 million a year from the federal government. I mean, if we got given $1 million from the government, that's 8 psychologists straight up, fully employed. So that's like a massive impact for us, you know what I mean? But it's, we've tried to reach out to these other organisations that do stuff before, like collaborative marketing and everything. It's just a no-go. So I mean, we've just got to do our own thing, right, and just prove that our social change is really making an impact. And like I was saying, that 70 cents to the dollar, we're hoping that our charitable organisation is one that people do want to invest in. We don't want donations; we want people to invest in what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think the fact you're measuring everything, right? You talk about the number of hours and you're looking through the supply chain and how you do that as well is really cool. And there's not many people that necessarily approach it fully in that way. So I think that will pay dividends over time as well. So that's really cool. And did you bring, kind of final question, right? You started off on site working alongside your co-founder. Is there anything you learned in that experience that really also helped formulate TradeMutt and how you've approached things?
Oh, work ethic, 100%. I mean, we were doing 7 days a week to save the money to launch this thing. Just work ethic and knowing that, if he got out of bed at 5 o'clock on a Sunday, I had to get out of bed at 5 o'clock on the Sunday, and same thing over. Like we both rocked up. We both, never missed a day. we had those big, some Saturdays and Sunday arvos, you'd be there until dark, but it was just knowing that we both had a common thought in regards to, or goal, that we wanted to do something. We didn't know exactly what we wanted to do, but we just knew we wanted to do something. And we knew it wasn't going to be in the building industry. Like, we wanted to do something that was completely different, but obviously still make some really cool change. And then, once we knew that TradeMutt was it, and the social impact workwear, we just, threw everything at it. And thankfully, we had a really amazing work ethic, a really close bond, and a great mateship. And we just went for it, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really cool story. Great. I've got a couple of questions to finish on. This is really, I think it's really, by the way, it goes without saying, it's really cool what you're doing. I think it's great to see people build great businesses when they have purpose behind them as well, and you're having an impact, right? I think even having the number of psychologists on board you've got today and counsellors is, you're saving, you are really actually saving lives. It's funny, we always often joke with businesses that aren't, and actually you're one of those businesses that really is. And so that's a really powerful thing. I mean, that's a really powerful thing, and you must feel pretty good about that. And I hope it keeps growing, because it's an industry that definitely needs it. So it's good to see that impact. We finished on a few lighter hearted questions. The first one is, like, back in the days, I guess, when you were a carpenter, did you have a favorite go-to lunch? Or you can talk about now, actually, even your kind of on-site lunch that you would pick.
Nando's, half chicken chips,
Nando's
with extra peri salt and 2 creamy chip dips, thanks, and a Sprite, and a 600ml Sprite.
Cool, that's very specific. It's definitely like
Dan and I have eaten a lot.
Yes, yeah. I'm guessing that. You can't beat the peri sauce. That's a good shout. And then, do you have a favorite go-to tool brand?
Well, I mean, I used to be a Hitachi man. It's not called Hitachi anymore. It's what is it called now? I can't remember. It's changed names. But I mean, I've only ever had Hitachi, so that's my go-to. But I mean, there'd be a lot of people, Milwaukee, Makita people, DeWalt people, bring me at the radio. But anyway, that's
they will be now. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Milwaukee's. Definitely, Milwaukee is very popular. Yeah, there will be people screaming at the radio. You can always guarantee that. The other thing was, I believe, look at your LinkedIn, you're a fan of the South Sydney. I'm going to pronounce that. There you go, Rabbitohs. For those that don't know, that's an NRL rugby league team in Australia. What would be, you can get to when things are opening up and stuff, would you have a choice of sporting event or music event you'd want to get to first off?
Oh yeah, it'd be another South game. And I was lucky enough to get to my first one last week, because they're playing in Brisbane. I'm going to another one on Friday night, which is going to be great.
Oh, cool.
But being able to go and see them play is often a pretty big cup filler for me every year. I'm often, pre-COVID, I was flying down to Sydney at least once or twice a year to watch them. So big fan.
That's really cool. You get to go. You're very lucky. Hopefully things start to progress the rest of Australia soon, as hopefully things settle down. And then the other final question is, in the space of people you come across, anyone else you think we should speak to who would be really interesting as a guest that we should have a conversation with?
I'm trying to think. There's plenty of people out there like doing cool stuff. Like I've got a guy I went to school with that is a plumber, a commercial plumber, and he started a travel, like an adventure business for tourists that were coming into Australia. Obviously, it's a bit tough at the moment with COVID, but he bought a really big 30-seat bus and would take it from Brisbane to Stradbroke Island every Saturday and Sunday. And it was just really cool. Like, people get into the trade industry and are like, this is it. I'm just a dumb trade. It pisses me off when people say that. So like you can do anything, right? Like, there's not many people out there that can build a house or, lay a slab or wire up a house. Like, it's pretty skilled work, right? There's the people out there that have branched out of the trade industry and gone and done something differently is really cool. But like a specific guest, no, not off the top of my head, I can't think of one. But cool. If I do, I'll definitely.
Let us know. Cool idea. You make a good point. I think there are lots of people that are very skilled doing what they do and building great businesses, and you're an example of that. You may not be building a trades business, but you've used that experience to build something really meaningful. So I think it's definitely possible and can be an inspiration to lots of people. And what's the best way for people to get hold of you? So I guess TradeMutt's easy to find, but do you maybe just want to any URLs or easy ways to track you down?
TradeMutt.com, or if anyone out there wants to chat to anyone at TX, the phone number is 0488 46988, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Otherwise, to get on to me, just jump on LinkedIn, look up, Edward Ross, or What else? Yeah, it's probably us. And then, all the TradeMutts all on Instagram and Facebook.
Cool. And and thanks for mentioning the phone number. So we will, at the end of this episode in the show notes, we will put URLs and phone numbers. So if anyone is listening and has been working through this stuff or struggling with it, then we'll put that detail in there so you can actually get hold of it. Or you got a friend or colleague that, again, you think needs help, then again, we'll put the information in the show notes. Hey, Ed, this is really cool. I think you're doing really great stuff. Really appreciate you spending the time, and good luck with it all. It's a really great thing that you're doing, and I hope it continues to be successful. Thanks, everyone. As always, give us a review, comment, feedback is welcome. And as I said, we'll put the further information in the show notes. Until next time, thank you.
And
Bye.
that brings us to the end of this episode. Behind the Tools is brought to you by Tradify, job management software for your trade business. If you enjoyed the podcast, let us know by leaving a review, and be sure to tell your mates about it. Email behindthetools@tradifyhq.com if you or someone you